It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Science has come a long way over the past few hundred years. Sometimes considered a thing of the past, censorship and suppression in science is still an issue. This is Clarified. This story starts 550 years ago in Torun, Poland. On February 19th, 1473, a child who would later be called the father of modern astronomy was born. His name was Nicolaus Copernicus. He came from a well-to-do family, which allowed him to receive a broad and rigorous education. Copernicus was a man of many talents. He studied law, medicine, and ancient Greek, but most importantly for us, he showed a talent and interest in astronomy, the study of the heavens. During his time, the most common model of the universe was geocentric. The Earth was thought to be the immovable center of the universe, with all other planets, the sun, and the stars revolving around it. I mean, this made sense at the time. It doesn't feel like the Earth is moving, right? Copernicus shattered this long-held belief with just his eyes and some math. Telescopes hadn't even been invented yet. From eclipses to alignments of planets and stars, he observed the night sky over the course of his life and began to put together a unified theory of how the planets move. Copernicus presented a heliocentric model of the universe. His model had the sun, not the Earth, at the center. He proposed that the Earth, as well as the other planets, orbit around the sun. His model said that the Earth rotates on its axis once a day, and that the slight tilts in the Earth's axis account for the seasons. It was only on his deathbed that he realized his findings in their final form. On the Revolutions of Heavenly Spheres was published in 1543, the same year he died. What came next changed history. The book was well received by astronomers, but it didn't go down so well with the church. Martin Luther was quoted in disagreement with Copernicus, arguing that his model contradicts the biblical account of astronomy. The real drama came about 73 years after its release, when Galileo Galilei defended Copernicanism. The book was then placed on the Index of Forbidden Books in 1616, only to be removed in 1758. For Galileo's defense of Copernicanism, as well as continued astronomical writings, he was sentenced to house arrest for the rest of his life and had all of his publications banned. While Copernicus and Galileo weren't the first scientists to have their findings suppressed, they definitely weren't the last. While suppression of science is not as extreme as the total banning of books that Galileo and Copernicus faced, it is still around and manifests itself in a bit differently.
The best example of scientific suppression within living memory, not my own, comes from the Soviet Union and Stalin's day. In the late 1920s, Trofim Lysenko claimed to have developed agricultural techniques that would substantially improve crop yields. In doing so, he relied on what was already a discredited idea about heredity, and he rejected mainstream biology.
Lysenko's version of biology was thought to be in harmony with Stalin's ideology. Genes being passed down seemed bourgeoisie and anti-Marxist. Acquiring characteristics throughout life, though, resonated with Stalinism. A new man could be molded from anything, any class.
Lysenko suppressed rival views with all of the power of a totalitarian state. Thousands of his opponents were fired, imprisoned in the Gulag, or executed.
By the end of the ordeal, 7 million Soviets died of starvation, in part due to Lysenko's failed agriculture. China also adopted Lysenkoism in the 50s, where 30 million starved. While there are thankfully no recent comparable examples, science suppression is still happening. Fossil fuel companies have been accused of stamping down evidence for climate change.
Big Oil has known about the dangers of fossil fuels since the 1970s, while spending billions denying publicly the harm its products cause.
Did we aggressively fight against some of the science? Yes.
Legislators in several states have fought for bills that encourage teaching of anti-evolution and creationist concepts.
A well-rounded education, which includes a biblical perspective of how our country was formed.
The previous Trump administration also placed gag orders on scientific government agencies, as well as banned words related to climate change from the agency's communications. The internet has made both science education and misinformation more accessible, allowing once dispossessed groups believing in debunked conspiracy theories like flat earthers and anti-vaxxers to survive. Many of those groups cry that they are censored by mainstream science. Such groups, though, have never been published in peer-reviewed journals, but resort instead to fake fringe publications to spread their beliefs. But why go through all that trouble just to try and suppress what most scientists know is true?
People or institutions in positions of power censor science when they think it's in their interests in one way or another. In the case of the church, there was, to some extent, worry about religious consequences. In the case of Lysenko, clearly there was a personal lust for power on his part. In the case of the Republican administration suppressing climate change, the economic interests of fossil fuel companies are probably what's driving the bulk of it.
And as we know from Lysenko's case, censorship can have major consequences.
First, suppressing science can obstruct the progress of science itself. Openness promotes scientific progress in enabling scientists not to have to reinvent the wheel. Suppressing science can obstruct the development of technology.
To hit back at suppression, Mr. Branch says we have to hold our representatives accountable.
So we should also keep an eye on them, including by supporting watchdog organizations. We should help to ensure that everyone in our society has a chance to learn about and understand the value of the scientific enterprise.
Maybe then we could try to take the lesson from Copernicus and remove censorship from science altogether.